Oh, good morning, everyone. Made it. I'm back. I had to apologize for that power outage on Monday, although I didn't cause it. We have to be tolerant of those kinds of things. I don't think anybody turned the power off just to torment Bob. So when these things happen, we have to be tolerant. You can guess what the virtue is going to be for today, right? You'll have to tolerate it. Anyway, it's good to be back. I'm Bob Jackman. I'm the teacher virtues facilitator at the Charles G. Andrew Youth and Family Treatment Center in Sheshatshiu, Labrador. And I've been coming to you now for, I think that I'm in my 43rd, 44th video. And I'm trying to get you through the Family Virtues Guide. And right now we're looking at Strategy 3, which is Parent as Authority and Setting Clear Boundaries. So far we've looked at 3 of them, and we're going to look at number 4 today, this morning. And we looked at permissiveness. Of course, this is where you allow the children to do whatever they want to do, because, you're developing something in them that, But, there are people that believe permissiveness is a good parenting strategy, okay? However, the research shows that it's not. It's a loose steering wheel, and you're not guiding children very well with it. And there's also people that believe the dominant parent style is also a good one to have, like you whip the children into, the rules and regulations as you want them. Now, you will do this, you will listen to me or else, and you could get a strapping, a beating, there's various things that can happen. But you're basically being forced into obeying the rules. And there's people that believe that will work. The threat of being punished will get this child to follow the rules. And I believe once they're out of the sight of the parents, or out of the control of the parents, they tend to become a little more lackadaisical and not follow the rules as much. Then we looked at number 3, which was the democratic. And the democratic, of course, is, well, kids, picture mom and dad and 6 kids, right? What would you like for supper tonight? What are we going to have for supper tonight? Let's vote on it, right? And as long as they vote on things that are appropriate, oh yeah, let's have boiled salmon and potatoes, and everybody agrees, yes, the democratic system works. But as soon as different people have different views, it doesn't work. So the democratic one, when it works, it works. When it don't, it's misery. And then we have the one we're going to look at now, which was the sliding strategy, okay? Going from one to the other. The parent who slides back and forth between the permissive and the dominant is the most unhappy, and their children often tyrannize them. And of course, this is backed up by research. I've tried everything, they often say. These kids are just impossible. Trying everything is a primary symptom of sliding. Sometimes sliding occurs because of the guilt parents experience about the little time they have to spend with their children, especially in homes where both parents work outside the home, or a single parent is struggling to work, raise the children, care for the house, and so on. Economic and other pressures can lead to a stressed out, overly burdensome lifestyle in which time seems stretched to the limit. Never enough time in the day, right? Whether through guilt or confusion, the net effect is that many of us are so uncertain of our proper role that our children are often given too much power and not enough guidance. In this model, this sliding model, the parent becomes a manipulator, trying to coax, cajole, or convince children. But children are magnificent learners, and so they tend to outdo their parents at manipulation. When that happens, the parent feels put upon and slides into helpless anger, lashes out, then feels remorse and guilt. So begins to placate the child, and so the cycle continues, with no one winning. And no one learning to develop their virtues. Oh, I was too hard on her. Oh, I feel so guilty. That's how parents can feel after that happens. Here's a little story here. Sitting on the shore of a lake one hot summer day, we watched as a woman waded around after her belligerent 6-year-old daughter, begging, cajoling, and pleading with her to wear a hat, giving her one reason after another. The child simply moved further away, saying, "No, I don't have to. I'm not wearing it. I don't have to listen to what you say." The mother was embarrassed, seemed to feel helpless, and finally stood there, hat in hand, as the daughter splashed off. Then she took a deep breath, summoned her strength, waded quickly toward the girl, and caught her by the wrist. "You have to wear the hat," she yelled. The child began kicking and screaming, was bodily dragged out of the water, off the beach to the car, screaming her version of obscenities at her mother the entire time. What was missing here? The mother slid from behaving in a permissive, helpless fashion, triggering a disrespectful response from her daughter, to a dictatorial mode which triggered rage and further disrespect. The child did not wear the hat, and both mother and daughter lost the beauty of being at the lake. They also lost a precious teachable moment. Mother could have set clear boundaries before the child went into the water. If you want to go into the water during this hot time of day, you will need to wear your hat. The message would have been clear. If the daughter had said, "I don't have to listen to you, I'm going in without my hat," the mother could have said, "Be respectful, Rebecca. And the boundary is, you can either go into the water with your hat on or stay under the tree with me." Most children, in the face of a gentle, assertive approach, would choose to obey. So you see, sliding back and forth, giving children, allowing them to do what they like, until it gets to a point where you can't allow them to do what they like anymore, and so you move into the dominant one. Get in here. You're not going into that water with your hat on and then dragging her home. So it goes from smiling, happy, and very carefree to this dominant. You're going to do this, and then everybody loses. So we have one more to look at, and we're going to look at that one on. We're going to look at that on Saturday because I'm going to be traveling on Friday. Thursday and Friday I'm traveling, but I will be back home for Saturday. So we could say Saturday morning at 10 o'clock we can do the next one, which is the educative model. And that's the one, of course, based on virtues, which I think you'll enjoy. Okay? So, the virtue that I picked for today, as you found out earlier, was tolerance. The virtue of tolerance. The quote from the Colossians, "Be tolerant with one another and forgiving. If any of you has cause for complaint, you must forgive as the Lord forgave you." What is tolerance? Is it my way or the highway? No. Tolerance is being able to accept things that you wish were different. If you're practicing tolerance and someone annoys you, you just go on and don't pay too much attention. When you practice tolerance, you can be flexible. Some people find it difficult to tolerate any change in the way they want things to be. They fuss and fume if it is too hot or cold, too noisy or too quiet, or something is taking too long. Oh, some hot today, or it's cold today, Can never seem to please everyone, right? When you practice tolerance, you don't expect others to think, look, or act just like you. You accept differences. You overlook the faults of others, especially of people in your own family. When you are practicing tolerance, you're able to sort out what is important from what is not. You show patience and forgiveness when people make mistakes. You accept what you cannot change with good grace. Why we should practice tolerance? Because people who don't practice tolerance cannot stand to have anything different from what they want or expect. They criticize, complain, and condemn people for doing things they don't like or even for being different. They try to change other people rather than overlooking their own faults. They have difficulty forgiving. Without tolerance, people are unhappy most of the time, and people around them become unhappy too. Tolerance gives us the power to stick with a situation even when it gets uncomfortable. It gives us flexibility, and that's a virtue that we looked at there a couple of sessions ago. So how do you practice tolerance? When you practice tolerance, you have the patience and flexibility to live with things you don't like. You don't expect others to be just like you. You accept differences. You don't judge others because they look different from you. When things are uncomfortable and cannot be changed, you accept them with good grace instead of complaining. You forgive others instead of holding a grudge or wishing they would change. If you don't like something about a relationship, instead of trying to change the other person, you focus on changing yourself. When you are tolerant, you can agree to disagree with someone. You don't insist on her seeing it your way all the time. Tolerance does not mean being passive when someone is unjust or abusive. Practice tolerance. Practicing tolerance is asking God to help you accept the things you cannot change. Signs of success. You are practicing tolerance when you're open to differences. When you are free of prejudice. When you don't complain when uncomfortable conditions can't be helped. When you forgive others instead of holding a grudge. When you focus on changing yourself when a relationship isn't right. When you overlook people's faults. Ask God to help you accept the things you cannot change. And the affirmation, I am tolerant. I overlook people's faults. I am open to differences. God help me to accept the things I cannot change. Now, I wasn't on Monday, so we missed that day. The power was off from, I think, 8:20 until 9:30 at night. So I have a little story that I found here in the Daily Meditations on the Virtues by Linda Kavelin Popoff, The Sacred Moments, backwards, but that's the book. So I thought I would read that little story for you, and it's it's got to do with Aboriginal people as well, so you might enjoy this one. The Virtue of Tolerance. Beautiful story. Gets us thinking. When Jonas was 7 years old, a serious illness swept through his northern Alberta village, killing both his parents and most of his relatives. He was placed in a foster home with a family many miles away. After a few weeks, his foster mother called Alice, the social worker who had placed the boy. She called Alice. Alice was a social worker. And here's what she said. This boy is a thief. He just helps himself to whatever he wants. He goes into my son's room, takes his clothes, steals food at night, just takes without asking. I don't know if we can keep him here. Alice, the social worker, drove out to investigate. When Jonas came home from school, she took him for a ride and asked him how it was going. Here's what he said. They don't like me, said the boy, and he began to cry. He was very confused by the family's anger at him. They drove back to the house, and she sent him out to play. The two women sat down over a cup of tea. Alice explained that in the First Nation village where Jonas was raised, the children were raised by everyone. If you sleep overnight at your cousin's house, you just wear their clothes to school the next day. They do the same when they come to your house. The meals are not always at a certain time, so the children are encouraged to take food when they are hungry. Jonas is a good boy. He is just practicing the sharing tradition of his people, and he can learn your ways of sharing if you explain them. Tears filled the foster mother's eyes. I just didn't know. As the women embraced, Alice knew that Jonas would be all right here after all. The hair stands up on my arm and the back of my neck when I read that story. It's an amazing story. And, I think that kind of stuff happens. And maybe things that are even worse than that happens, But it's it's a good ending to the story. We know that Jonas is going to be okay there. It is sad that he had lost his parents and most of his relatives, in his northern Alberta village. Okay, so a couple of quotes here on tolerance. Every morning, that's not the one tolerance I'm at. I got to get the right virtue here, okay? Practice tolerance and live together as good neighbors. United Nations Charter. Everybody smiles in the same language. Anonymous. Here's what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said. We may have come here on different ships, but we're all in the same boat. Something to think about. Name 3 kinds of prejudice. Name 3 kinds of prejudice. Here's 2. Sexism, racism. Can you come up with another? And I'm quite sure you can. Think about this one. What are some things in your life that call for a tolerant attitude? What are some things in your life, my life, that call for a tolerant attitude? Oh, and the power went out on Monday morning. Nothing I could do about that, Let's appreciate our differences. Let's not put each other down. Let's lift each other up. Let's accept the things we cannot change. I want to finish this one with the prayer that we say at the center, at the end of every circle that we have. So this may be familiar to you. So here's the prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So, thank you very much for being with me. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I think together maybe we've learned some things from it. So until Saturday morning at 10 o'clock, stay safe. No viruses in our towns yet. Let's not have any. Let's keep them out. Okay, we've got to be resilient. And no viruses in here. Okay, so bye for now. Take care.